This is Andy Purwell for Boxing Social, and I'm delighted to be joined by the head of Sky Sports Boxing, Callum Smith. Adam, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, really enjoying the week. It's starting to motor now. I thought that the workout yesterday down in the financial district was fantastic. It was a huge occasion, and we were used to that in Britain, but to have that in America, and I've been here many times for many fight weeks, and there was something different about yesterday. It was almost the arrival of a rock star in AJ, and it's fantastic. I think they're going to really take to him. Now he's just got to deliver in the ring where it matters.
A big week for Anthony. He's performed at Wembley numerous times, the Millennium Stadium, etc. Defeated some of the biggest names in the division, and now he's looking to conquer the USA. With that comes a different type of pressure. How do you think Anthony's going to deal with that and trying to gain new fans across the States?
I think he's going to deal with it as he deals with everything, professionally. He's a wise head, he's been around a long time now. He's got a great team around him. He came over to Miami for a few weeks to acclimatise well. He's used to having a lot of media, a lot of attention and many fans around him. But I think you saw yesterday when he'd done his workout that he stayed around and he wanted to sign, autographs and have selfies with the supporters that had waited patiently, and that's just what he does back home. So nothing really different. It's just a new city, and I've been around Lennox Lewis and Nassim Hamed and many fighters that have come over to America, and I think on so far Anthony Joshua's handled it as well, if not better than any of them.
What have you made of Andy Ruiz Jr. in the build-up? He seemed very calm and relaxed, despite I suppose there isn't really pressure on him because he is the underdog, which many people don't expect him to be victorious. But what have you made of his aura this week?
I really like Andy Ruiz Jr. He's a great guy. I met him in Vegas a few weeks back when the fight was announced, and I've been following him for a while, but it was great to get to know him and meet some of his family, and he told me he wanted to become a commentator and take Paulie Malignaggi's job. So listen, he's a character, and he's a hard man. He's been fighting since he was a kid. He's been fighting grown men since he was young, and look, he was a decent amateur. He's got a great professional record. One controversial loss out in New Zealand, so he could have become a world champion. And I think at short notice, or 5.5 weeks notice, it's a very, very good replacement to Jarrell Miller. He's got fast hands, he can hook, he can come in close, he throws body shots. He could be the quickest fighter that AJ's fought as a professional. But yeah, he's much smaller, he's lacking a lot of advantages technically and certainly in terms of power. So, it's hard to see him winning the fight, but you never know in heavyweight boxing. There's banana skins have come and gone, and big fights have been talked about and then gone out the window. We had the Deontay Wilder news last night to say that he's going to fight Luis Ortiz, so that's another little spanner in the whole sort of AJ Wilder work. So I think Joshua's just got to be the consummate professional and get the job done. And Andy Ruiz, he's got absolutely nothing to lose. It's a golden opportunity. He said to me, he pulled me over the other day and he said, everyone says I'm going to get beaten, I'm going to get knocked out. He said, I'm going to prove every one of these people wrong. I'm going to go in and I'm going to become the first Mexican to become a heavyweight champion. And believe me, I'm going to give it everything. So I think for as long as he's in there, Anthony Joshua will know he's been in a fight. I think he'll throw it all at him, and I expect a really, really dramatic fight. Could be short though.
We'll pick that back up then, Adam. We're just in the middle of the Sky shot there.
Sorry about that, but I was told off by my reporter, so what can you do? We have to listen to people that are far more intelligent and better at their jobs than I am, so we did.
You just touched on it there, something I was going to bring up later on. The Wilder Ortiz announcement yesterday, what was your reaction when you saw it?
Not surprised. I was in Brooklyn for Deontay's terrific performance against Dominic Breazeale. The fight result, the manner of victory that he needed. I think after what happened with Ortiz, the battle last year, and obviously the Tyson Fury fight, I think Deontay needed to make a statement. He did. Luis Ortiz was around at ringside, so 2 and 2 together, and you sort of felt that was going to happen, all under the same wing, under the same stable. And look, it was a great fight first time around. We covered it, and I'm sure we'd love to cover the rematch. Yes, it does put a slight spanner in the works for AJ and Wilder, but I for one was pretty convinced that it wasn't going to happen in 2019. I do think Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder want to fight each other. I do think it will manifest itself, and I think it will happen probably in a 2-fight deal, but I don't think it will happen until 2020. So yeah, Deontay fights in September probably against Luis Ortiz. I think Joshua will fight in December, maybe in back home at the Principality or maybe here, and then let's hope that they can get it together for 2020. I mean, I've made my feelings pretty clear on the subject. I think the two of them need to get in a room. I think they need to talk about how they can make it work. I think all this sort of toing and froing between their very professional, excellent management teams. You know, look at AJ's got Freddie Cunningham around him, he's got Eddie Hearn, he's got his terrific team, and so has Deontay Wilder, got Jay Diaz and Shelley Finkel and Al Heyman. You know, they've both got great teams around them looking after their own interests. But I think it's, you know, the fighters want to fight, and I think that the fans are demanding it now, and I think they're getting pretty impatient. So I think we're going to have to see some sort of a move, whether it's Deontay turning up on Saturday night or Anthony turning up to the Ortiz fight. I think we're going to have to get some movement in there, and hopefully the two of them can get together in the ring, because I'm sure AJ will say, despite the news, if he comes through the Andy Ruiz fight, I'm sure he'll say on Saturday night, you know, Wilder, I want you next. And, you know, if they have signed a deal, if terms have been agreed for the Ortiz fight, it can't be next, but it's got to be soon. At least that's what I think.
When you consider Deontay goes around saying, you know, this one face, one name, one champion, etc., are you surprised that he hasn't decided to at least return to the negotiation tables just to see what was on offer before making the announcement that he was going to fight Luis Ortiz in a rematch?
He was offered a great deal of money by DAZN, and he turned it down. He stayed loyal to his team, loyal to Showtime, and they've got a plan, and they obviously want him to have one, maybe two more fights before the Joshua fight. Maybe they feel that they want to do that from a business point of view. Maybe they feel that he needs a couple more fights before Joshua. I don't know. I don't think either of them need another fight. I think that they should fight, you know, next, but it's not going to happen. So, look, I think all we can do is hope that the two of them get together, and that Joshua puts on a great performance here to announce his American debut. Anthony told me that he wants to fight back home next, so I think that would be good for the British crowd, whether it's a mandatory against Pulev or Dillian or you know, a Usyk or someone like that. I think he'll fight back home, maybe before Christmas. But yeah, I think we do need to sort of move this forward, and I think the way to move it forward is the fighters to sit down and talk, because ultimately they're the stars of the show, and they're the ones that are demanding all the money, and there's enough money on the table to make everybody happy, I'm sure about that.
Now, obviously, this time round, when AJ is selecting his opponent after Ruiz, provided everything does go to plan on Saturday night, the reaction to whoever he fights won't be as bad as what it would have been if negotiations had happened and an agreement couldn't be made. But realistically, when you look at the top heavyweights, a mandatory obviously is a mandatory. You'd have to take that. But if he was to fight back in the UK, only Dillian Whyte realistically would be able to drum up that type of interest across the population. Do you think that's a fair comment?
Or Tyson Fury. I mean, let's not say, you know, don't forget about him. Tyson's got his own fight in a couple of weeks. Yes, he's on ESPN. Yes, there is a difficulty back home with the BT Sky situation, but nothing is impossible. You know, Pacquiao and Mayweather proved, you know, they've done it before 3 times. Showtime and HBO have come together. Nothing is impossible in this business. So maybe, you know, AJ turns to Tyson Fury if he can't get hold of Wilder. But I know he wants Wilder because I know he wants to become the undisputed champion. But we all know that back in Britain, Joshua and Fury is an enormous fight, and we'd love to see it. I just think it's important, and Dillian Whyte as well. I think it's important that the three of them, and if you add Dillian Whyte into the mix as well, that they fight each other. And we've had Wilder Fury. Frank Warren rolled the dice, and the gamble paid off. Fury was terrific that night, and he made that happen. And so, look, that's what we need. We need those sort of fights, any one of the three fighting each other, or Dillian getting his opportunity. He's got a tough fight against Oscar Rivas in July, and he needs to concentrate on getting through that. But maybe he'll get to Wilder first. But some of these fights have got to happen because boxing's going through a really good period, almost a halcyon period again. You know, look at the undercard here today, the Katie Taylor going for her own undisputed title against Delphine Bassoon. You've got Callum Smith, the world's leading super middleweight. You've got, you know, Joshua Buatsi, Josh Kelly. So much good is happening in boxing at the moment. And you know, it's time for the big fights to manifest. We don't want a Lewis Bowe situation, and Deontay told me a couple of weeks ago he doesn't want that to happen. So I just think 2020, you know, this has to move forward. We need this fight to happen for the good of boxing, and I really think Anthony Joshua wants it, and I really think Deontay Wilder does, but it's not happening yet, and there are reasons for it.
Now, I know you mentioned Tyson Fury as well there. I was going to bring him up in this next question prior to what you said. I spoke to John Fury, his dad, last week, and he said that 50-50 or nothing, that's what they want. I spoke to Eddie yesterday and mentioned that to him, and he said 60-40 was a more than fair enough offer. If it does come down to percentages, or if it's Eddie was saying that they'd want a straight up money offer. If that was to be the case, do you think a 60-40 split is fair, or a 50-50 just to get the fight done? Because in the UK, Fury Joshua, it quite possibly just doesn't get bigger than that because of their backgrounds and what they've both achieved in the sport to date.
Well, it's up to Eddie and it's up to the teams to get together and work out the percentages. That's not my job. I think that Tyson Fury deserves huge money for the fight, and I think Anthony Joshua deserves huge money for the fight. And as I said, with these sort of things, there's so much in the pot that everyone's going to benefit. So, you're talking, little percentages that can, swing it both ways. But, there's always a meeting point in the middle, and ultimately, rather get these fights on than not, otherwise everybody loses out. So there's being stubborn and there's being sensible, and you have to know your value. And Tyson Fury's in a great position at the moment because he's had that terrific performance against Deontay Wilder, but he doesn't hold the belts. He says he's the linear champion. He may well be the best heavyweight in the world, but he doesn't hold the belts. Anthony Joshua, not only does he hold the majority of them, but he is the global superstar. He's certainly the superstar in Britain. And he's certainly the one that is getting the attraction because of what he brings outside of the ring as well, and the huge sponsorship deals and the commercial value, and he is the superstar. So it's a difficult one. And then Deontay Wilder's got the belt that most people say is the most prestigious, the WBC, that gold and green belt that everyone wants to get their hands on. So, he'll believe after the Brazil knockout that he's worth more. So, ultimately, whether it's the 60-40s, the 65-35s, the 55-45s, the 50-50s, ultimately, they've got to look at what money's in the pot. What would the money be in the pot, and what would it be if it didn't happen? Okay, if Tyson Fury goes on and fights 3 or 4 more fights and doesn't get one of these big fights, he's going to earn money, but he's not going to earn the mega money that he would do from a Joshua fight or a Wilder fight. So, but they're high risks. In my opinion, those risks need to be taken. They need each other. Dance partners, Bo Holyfield, Lewis, Tyson, all of that, great era. Back to the Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, Duran. They all made each other, and I think that, arguably, some people say to me, any one of them could beat any one of them on any given night. Wilder's got the power, Joshua's got the structure and the technique, and Fury's got the natural boxing ability and the awkward style. So they've all got so much, and they all bring different personalities to the table as well. They're all very attractive in their own ways, and fight fans need to see it. We all do. You and I do. We all need to see the big fights happen. But I believe that come 2020, we will get movement in that direction because there's just too much money on the table.
Now, you mentioned the undercard prior to that question, so we will come on to that now. We'll start off with Callum Smith defending his world title for the first time. Hassan N'Dam, an opponent who many don't expect much of again. Callum, a big favourite for the fight. That fight's kind of had a bit of a bad reception back home. I think it's on the back of Callum's terrific performance against George Groves and everybody wanting to see him unify quickly because of the expectations he will move up to light heavyweight at some point in the near future. What have you made of the criticisms for that fight?
Hassan N'Dam's a really good fighter, but he is a natural middleweight. I've known him for a long time, actually. He's popped up in various places, and he's always given really good value, decent amateur. He's a good fighter, but he's on the aging end now, and he is not a natural super middleweight, so it's a very tough fight for him. I'm sure he'll give it everything, but I expect Callum to come through. I want Callum Smith to fight regularly. He's not been on Sky for a while. He went off to the World Super Series, and he did brilliantly, and the win over George Groves was, it was a phenomenal performance, and thoroughly deserved. He's got huge talent. He's got he's great part of the Smith boxing family, and he's a big Liverpool fan as well. So he's great, Callum Smith. And look, I just want to see him fight more regularly. It's a good showcase for him Saturday night against Hassan N'Dam. And if he comes through it spectacularly, why don't we get him back in the ring as early as August, September, and fight him in Liverpool? I want to get him back regularly fighting on Sky, and we can build him, and ultimately he'll want to fight the likes of a Canelo or a Golovkin, but he might not be super middleweight for much longer. I mean, he's a massive 12-stone fighter, so he could dip his toes into the light heavyweight division. I think he'd be terrific there as well. Very good fighter, need to see more of him.
After Billy Joe Saunders' fight against Shefat Isufi in a post-fight press conference, Frank Warren said that he spoke to Joe Gallagher about potentially making that fight, and Joe said a couple fights down the line. Firstly, What are your thoughts on that fight if it was to happen? Secondly, the reason they said a couple of fights down the line, Frank said that wouldn't happen because they expect Callum to move up within a couple of fights to light heavyweight. Do you think that's possible?
I think it's a great fight. I think there's so many good fights out there for Callum Smith. Joe Saunders, terrific fighter himself, two-weight world champion. Really like him. Really like the fight with Callum Smith. No, it's just it's what direction they want to go in. It's a shame for Callum a little bit that George Groves and James DeGale and Carl Froch have all sort of retired and moved on, and so Chris Eubank Jr. will be a big fight. Billy Joe Saunders is a big fight. There's Ramirez, there's Canelo, there's Golovkin. There's a lot out there. But first of all, he's got to take care of business Saturday night against Hassan Mandam. It's a great event to be part of. And as I said, win that, I want to see him fight in Liverpool next. And ultimately, I'd love to see him fight at Anfield. I think that will be he's the fighter to fight at Anfield. We've had Tony Bellew at Goodison, Ricky Hatton at the Etihad. It's been Billy Joe Saunders recently. We saw him in Stevenage. But I think for Anfield, for Liverpool, it's Callum Smith, maybe one or two of the other Smith brothers on the bill. It'd be fantastic. It would be a great night, and there's nowhere like Anfield. So I'd love to see that happen maybe next summer. But it's got to be the right opponent. And if they can tempt a Golovkin or a Canelo over, brilliant.
You just mentioned Tony Bellew there. It's 3 years today since he last fought at Goodison Park to win that world title. Does that bring back many memories for yourself?
It does. Being a Liverpool fan, walking out onto Goodison Park wasn't my favourite venue to go to. But no, I mean, to be fair, he's a massive Evertonian. It was a terrific night. It was a wonderful moment for him. He wanted it. He wanted it on that Sunday night. He wanted it on that bank holiday weekend. He said he'd sell. It was great. He'd stood there as a boy, and fantastic. Great to have the blue side of the city and the Reds as well supporting him. And Tony Bellew's a great guy. He's over here working for us this week, and we look forward to seeing him. And we'll always have that banter with Everton and Liverpool. But yeah, it does bring back great memories, getting up off the floor to win the world title, and think it's probably still his greatest night, even though obviously he had the 2 wins over David Haye. But I think that night will forever live in the Bellew memory, and long live with us. So yeah, I think it was a great one, and we want to do more of these sort of big shows, and I think there's no reason why Callum can't do the same a couple of miles up the road at Anfield.
Now, to quickly whiz through the rest of the card, Katie Taylor looking to unify the entire lightweight division. Your thoughts on that fight?
Yeah, I think Katie Taylor's a wonderful ambassador and an amazing fighter. When Eddie told me a while back that he was signing her, I was delighted. I've been a massive supporter of Katie. I think not only does she shine in the ring, but she's a shining example out of the ring as well. She's a jewel for Ireland. She really is, and. She's done it the hard way and the quick way. She wants all the belts. She's left Delphine Pursoon, the toughest one, until the end. Delphine's a good fighter. She hasn't really come out of Belgium much, but she's reigned for many years. Only that one defeat a long, long time ago on a pretty perfect record. And she's going to be a very, very tough obstacle for Katie on Saturday night. But I expect Katie to unify the division. I think she'll become one of the very few undisputed champions of gathering all the 4 belts. And I think you've got to see her then in the top 5 pound for pound fight list, male or female. It doesn't bother me. It's the fighter you've got to look at, and I think Katie Taylor's absolutely superb. Joshua Buatsi just alongside us, and he's very close to Katie Taylor. Anthony Joshua absolutely loves her, and I think most fighters do. She's great to watch. She has a switch. She's an angel outside of it, and she goes in and she just wants to tear into her opponents. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Katie again, but a tough fight.
Now, you just mentioned Josh Buatsi as well, who was alongside us. Facing Periban, someone who many may not know. When I was interviewed Eddie yesterday, he didn't actually know that it's been 2 years since Periban last fought. How much of a difference do you think that's going to make on the night? Yeah,
I mean, Periban's a very experienced fighter. It's another step for Joshua Buatsi. He came off that brilliant win for the British title against Liam Conroy, and I think Joshua Buatsi's going all the way. I've not hidden my thoughts about that. I think he's got poise. I think he's got balance. I think he's got power. I think he reads the fights very, very well. I think he's terrific, and his dedication is unbelievable. It's second to none. Lovely guy outside of the ring as well, intelligent. I think he's got the whole lot. And look, it's a good fight for him to announce himself here in America. Just dip the toes, smell it all at the Garden, breathe it all in, learn. That's what he's like. He's taking it all in, Joshua Buatsi. And in Periban, it's a fight he's expected to win. Yeah, he has been out a while, but he's been around. So looking forward to it, and looking forward to seeing if Buatsi can shine.
And Tommy Call against Chris Algieri, that seems to be a war in the making. Yeah. How excited are you for that one?
Yeah, well, Tommy Call's the one that's excited. He's been running around, jumping about. He can't believe he's here. He's taking pictures. He's just living a dream, isn't he? It's a great story, Tommy Call. It just goes to show you don't have to win everything. You can, you can have a great sort of warrior style and entertain people out of the ring, and you can get a bit of luck as well. And Tommy makes his luck too. You know, it's a good performance in Boston, and he's got Chris Algieri, another one he's not expected to get through, and he'll be the underdog again, but he'll give it absolutely everything. Chris is a great guy, and like to see what's left in the tank with him. He slipped slightly, and he's had problems outside the ring, but he's a good boxer, and he should beat Tommy Call and go on to fight for a world title. But you know, don't write Boom Boom Call off, because he'll give it absolutely everything. And as you said, it's a cracking fight to sort of kick off the action. Obviously, after Liverpool have beaten Spurs in the Champions League.
Adam, thank you for speaking to Boxing Social as always.
No problem at all. Cheers.
Thank you, Adam.